Welcome to the other Discovery Show, the bonus show from the podcast Discovery Show. This show is not about podcasts.
It is
about
not.
all the other things that we've discovered throughout the week. I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach. And I, as probably most people have seen many people kind of posting generic IQ tests that they took off IQTestProExcellence.com.
I got a 1600.
1600? Wow, that's an SAT score. I think your brain is literally a rocket ship. But
It's like her economy.
but you see all these things, and it made me wonder, what was the origin of the IQ test before it was perverted into what it is now, where it's, hey,
A Facebook meme?
yeah, it's like, what shape is this? Oh, you are Einstein now because you guessed that is in fact a square.
I do love those, and I say love in quotes. I do love those things on Facebook and stuff where it's like, if you can find the number 13 in 2 seconds, then you're a genius. And I'm like, it's right there.
I see it. It's right there in the middle of the screen.
I'm so smart. I love it. I always feel so smart.
See, and that's why they do it. It's because you get that endorphin rush. You're like, I am a genius. I knew it.
I need to share this right now, along with Jesus arm wrestling the devil
And a pet armadillo. It's like you get all of everything on the internet. But the IQ test in the early 1900s, the IQ test was invented. The first modern intelligence test in IQ history was developed in 1904 by Alfred Binet, I'm guessing, and Theodore Simon.
It stands for like intelligent quotient, right? Or something like that?
Yes. The French Ministry of Education asked these researchers to develop a test that would allow for distinguishing mentally challenged children from normally intelligent but lazy children. So it sounds like 1900s, right? It's like, okay, we need to know which one of these kids is dumb and which one is just lazy. It's like that. All of this is insensitive, guys. You don't need to be able to, like, why do you need a test for this? But that's what they did. And so they essentially made this test. And so there's logical reasoning, rhyming words, and naming objects. And the score for the IQ test, in combination with the child's age, provided information on the intellectual development of the child. Is the child ahead or lagging other children? So it was essentially mental age divided by chronological age times 100. So you are correct. It's called quotient. Because if you get 130 on an IQ test, that doesn't mean you have 130 brain points. It means that in comparison with like an average, it's all, the quotient means it's like in a relative term based on an average. It's not something where that's how smart you are. It's how smart you are in certain categories compared to other people. Mm-hmm. So really, it's in some ways a signifier of someone who could be intelligent, but in other ways, there's a lot of gaps on what is being tested, how, like the education level of who's taking it. There's a lot of other random pieces of this that make it interesting.
So I want to talk. There's a lot of context to why we talked about this that we won't get into, but I do want to say there is a lot of, I don't think a lot of people have experienced it with other people, because most people that you interact with here in the U.S. at least, have at least a decent bit of schooling. Mm-hmm. I have met a few people that were employees to my dad or to me in the past that have only had up to like third grade or lower schooling. With that said, they may be really smart, like mechanically inclined or something like that, but there's something that is lacking, and the thing that's lacking is the ability to learn. And I don't mean that like to learn, period, but to if you tell them, hey, I need this task done, and you give them 4 steps, they might be able to do it that day, but the next day you would have to give them those 4 steps again. It's retention. That's the word I was looking for. It's the retention of something that they've been taught, because it's weird when you're in school, you're learning all these facts, but you don't realize that the whole time you're learning how to retain knowledge. Mm-hmm. And if you have only a very little bit of schooling, that's what's missing. So it may be a smart person, but if they don't have a good education, then it's very difficult to
fully access that intelligence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So with that said, we were talking about different socioeconomic things that might definitely play a role in someone's IQ that have nothing to do with their actual intelligence. It might have to do with their surroundings and their access to good education or things like that. And I don't know. I think there's a lot to be discussed when it comes to IQ, because it seems like a red herring for a lot of arguments that have been had on the internet.
Yeah, no, and it is something where, sure, everybody has taken one of those IQ tests. They were really popular in the old internet. That was kind of like one of the, before it was all videos and everything. That was definitely one of the things that they'd sent around IQ tests, but it just doesn't mean as much as you think it does, because it's useful, but it was literally developed as a child development assessment. So it's not something that needs to be,
hey, your kid lazy?
No, and I think wasn't it Stephen Hawking that said anybody that brags about their IQ probably shouldn't? There was somebody who's like, that's not something that Stephen Hawking ever bragged about, because it's not that important. But I just thought it was funny.
So I read a story today that I almost put in our Discovery Club about Stephen Hawking. Apparently he was doing an interview and the camera guy tripped over a cord, which unplugged something, and he leaned forward and acted like it killed him. And the interviewer's like, are you okay? And he came up laughing and giggling at the joke that he just pulled on everybody, because it was, apparently he has a sense of humor as well.
No, that is the craziest thing about ALS, and him the same way, is your mind isn't compromised. And so he was in there until the very end. He was so who he was.
ALS is the opposite of Alzheimer's. Because my dad has Alzheimer's and he's physically way healthier than most people his age, but his mental capacity is just gone. And it's both of those diseases are just terrible.
Two sides of a terrible coin.
Yeah. All right. So I saw this thing on Today I Learned about the Mr. Goodbar. So Hershey's Mr. Goodbar. It's okay.
Is that the one with peanuts in it?
Yeah. It's basically a Hershey's bar with
peanuts.
I don't know why they need to call it Hershey's bar with peanuts. Actually, I do know why, because of the article that I just read.
I don't know why.
But I wanted to learn more because apparently this bar, when it came out, was one of the reasons that the Hershey's company was able to make it through the Depression. So I'll talk about it in a minute. But Samuel Hinkle was the guy that invented this particular bar, and Hershey hadn't invented a bar in a very long time. It had been a very long time.
Invented
20
a bar.
years. 20 years.
Put peanuts in the Hershey bar.
The bar before that was a Hershey bar with almonds.
What an invention.
But so Hinkle's first job was to analyze fat, sugar, and milk content in the products there at Hershey. But he shared a vivid memory of developing the formula with Mr. Goodbar. For Mr. Goodbar in 1925. That's a long time ago.
That is a long time ago.
His quote is, "We'd been experimenting with a peanut bar, peanuts being a popular product with the American people. We decided we'd better use Spanish peanuts rather than Virginia peanuts. We came up with this Spanish peanut, a small round peanut, and we left the little red shell on the outside. We called it roasted, but we really were frying the peanuts in fat and combining them with our milk chocolate. We began to think about a name. Actually, it was Mr. Hershey who really came up with the name. Someone said, 'That's a good bar.' And him, Mr. Hershey, having a hearing problem, thought that the guy said, Mr. Goodbar." So they named it Mr. Goodbar because Mr. Hershey misheard it.
I need to know more things that are named what they are because of miscommunications. I feel like that's an important thing that I'm going to have to dig into.
But the crazy thing is, in the 1930s, so this is during the Depression, it was marketed as a tasty lunch So this was a lunch. It was basically a protein bar of the day.
This is before there was any like rules on what you said. Like, hey, this has peanuts. It's lunch.
Exactly, because the peanuts gave it added nutritional value. During these years, the bar sold 2 for 5 cents. In the 1950s and 60s, the bar carried the slogan "Quick Energy" in every bar. Oh man! But so
we have laws preventing that now.
Yeah, but that was the bar that saved the Hershey's Chocolate Company during the Depression.
That's wild. By people eating it for lunch.
Yeah, it's funny because they have the old ad and everything where it shows it and it's like Hershey's Company, quick energy in every bar.
I mean, there is energy in sugar. They're not lying.
A tasty lunch. I mean, it's tasty because it's chocolate
and you can
peanuts.
eat it for lunch. It's not a lie. You can say the same thing about ice cream.
I mean, this was the Depression. I mean, if you could get 2 for 5 cents and you could call it a lunch, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even pretend to understand like the culture around that time, but okay. I do love that they acted like, we're going to talk about how difficult this invention process was. We had 2 kinds of peanuts that we had to work through. Was it Virginia peanuts or was it Spanish peanuts? Are we going to lie about whether we're roasting the peanuts? Yes, we are. Are we going to say that it's lunch? You bet. You bet. I want to be in one of these ad rooms in the 20s where it's just like, anything goes. Whatever you want to do. These chocolate bars will make you stronger, make you regrow hair. It's like, yeah, it sounds good. People will probably eat it for that.
So speaking of food that you probably shouldn't eat all that often.
I do have quite a list of foods that could kill you.
What?
Boom.
Kill you. Deadly foods.
Yeah, no, it was mainly, I don't know why I got on this thought experiment, but I always like to think about why people tried things for the first time. Especially like there's certain things that's like, why would you go for that? Like, okay, even a potato, really. It's like somebody dug up a potato one day and was like, I'm going to eat that. Why? It looks like a rock.
I bet you for the long time, I mean, I could be completely wrong. I'm making this up completely. I bet you
we're speculating wildly, everyone. Disclaimer.
I bet you they were eating the tops and then they're like, pull one up and like, man, look at all this stuff at the bottom.
Look at this big thing down here. Let's eat that too.
I'm going to try this.
Have you ever had sweet potato greens?
Sweet potato greens? No, I have not.
They taste really good.
I believe it.
They taste really good.
I believe it.
You can like throw them in salads. But anyways, number 1, don't chew on cherry seeds or pits for too long because they contain cyanide.
Oh my God.
Bum, bum, bum. But the limit for a 150-pound person is hundreds of cherry seeds.
It's the same thing with apples, right?
Yeah. So yeah, if you ate a bag of cherry seeds, like to the point of like being sick, like hundreds of anything at one serving is a lot.
That's I love cherries, and I eat too many when I'm eating them, and usually it's definitely less than 100.
Yeah,
and I'm not eating the pits.
No, yeah, you're supposed to spit those out. Don't eat that middle part.
I'm supposed to spit them out.
Otherwise, it grows a cherry in your stomach, right? Isn't that what it is? What's the sunny bit? Oh no, then you have to smoke cigarettes to kill it.
That explains my gastrointestinal issues.
It was about watermelons, though. Okay, fugu, pufferfish. So it is banned in the U.S. It is one of the most poisonous foods in the world unless it's cooked exactly right. The pufferfish is 1,200 times more deadly than cyanide.
What?
Which makes those cherry pits look like a walk in the park. So fugu I'd heard of because it is like a delicacy where they'll still do it. Like they do it in Japan and stuff because they'll do it with like sashimi and they'll do it as part of, but it's literally a pufferfish and almost all of it is poisonous. So lethal amounts of poison, tetrodotoxin.
It's like a neurotoxin, right?
Yes, in its inner organs, especially the liver, ovaries, eyes, and skin. So, skin and then like internal organs. So, it paralyzes the muscles while you're fully conscious. Then you slowly stop being able to breathe.
That sounds...
There is no known antidote for fugu poison.
Horrible.
So essentially, okay, so yeah, if you get this, unless you're put on a ventilator, to just keep you alive while your body is shutting down until you can get rid of it, you die.
Okay, so I'm down to try almost anything. I don't know if I would try that. Because even if you go to like the best place, like the most trusted
There's still
place,
a chance.
There's still like, what if this is the chef's off day? What if he's having a bad day and that knife is just not quite right?
If I had to eat this,
there's a little bit of skin left.
Yeah, if I had to eat this, I would prep a hospital and be like, okay, I need you to hold a ventilator for me. And so right now, you should not do it. Like they need
don't do that.
those. Just don't eat fugu right now. But you would need to just be ready in case this happens. But
maybe okay. So what if I just tried one piece? Is it that toxic?
Yes.
That one
Yes.
piece?
Oh, yeah.
Oh dang.
oh yeah, no, you don't want it.
Because I was gonna say like I get it, like a whole plate. You know.
No, but literally, you have to cut everything the right way so none of the poison gets on the meat. Like it's it's
I'm
literally
scared just
literally
thinking of it.
literally butchering this thing is the life or death decision. Is how you butcher it. But here's the craziest part. They've been eating this in Japan for 2,300 years.
How many people have died from this?
I don't know. And who was the first person? I mean, okay, first person obviously was like, oh, I caught a fish, I'm going to eat it. And then they died. So how did it get from that to, okay, if we cut it just right, we won't die maybe. 2,300 years ago.
Well, ovaries. He's dead. Okay, so you can't eat the ovaries. What about the skin? Skin's so crispy. It's so tasty. Nope, he died too. Can't eat the skin.
Literally, the Emperor of Japan is forbidden to eat it by law for his safety.
What? That's nuts.
So it's, I don't know. There's that one. I'd heard of it before, and I wanted to look into it a little more. So don't eat pufferfish, everyone.
Rhubarb.
This one is slightly disgusting, so beware.
Ooh.
So there is a type of cheese that is partially
looks
processed and fermented by letting maggots eat it.
Nope. Ooh. I don't like maggots. They're gross.
It's banned for many reasons in the U.S. Hot dogs.
What?
The number one cause of choking-related injuries in children under 3. So yeah, that one, it's just a choking hazard. Sprouts, live sprouts. Because
Why?
live sprouts are a perfect growing place for bacterias.
Interesting.
So
Didn't know that.
Over the past 2 decades, there have been 30 separate foodborne illness outbreaks associated with the consumption of sprouts, including Salmonella and E. coli. And that's just in the U.S.
I have an extra discovery real quick. I read an article. It was a Florida Man article. A guy won a boa constrictor in South Florida by having a roach eating contest, and he died after he ate like 100 and something roaches. He won the boa constrictor, which was like $1,000. It was a very somewhat rare one, but still like $1,000.
I'm
he ended
not
up dying.
eating 1,000 roaches for a snake, or no, 100.
Yeah. And he died because he didn't feel good afterward, and he like walked like 2 stores down and fell over, and he died.
It was because you shouldn't eat 100 cockroaches.
Probably not. That doesn't sound like a good idea.
I mean, did you hear about that kid that died from eating a slug?
No.
Don't eat slugs either, everybody. They carry parasites that are really weird, and like I think he was in Australia, and it was him and a bunch of his college buddies like drinking and being stupid. And one was like, I bet you won't eat that. And he was like, popped it and ate it. And it had some parasite in it that I think goes to your brain. And he died, like he went to a coma within like a week. He died within like a couple months. He was like 20 years old.
That's horrible. It's like the brain eating amoebas that we've got here in Florida.
Yep. You literally can just go swimming. Then you're in trouble.
It's very disturbing because there's a sign right here on the interstate, and it's got like a little boy that had died from it, and it's like, hey, don't forget to wear your nose guard. And I'm like, I have never worn a nose guard ever.
I haven't either, so it's basically just luck, I think. But I think it's mostly in the summer.
Super rare as well. Yeah. I don't think it's like anyway, go on. What's the next thing?
All right, this is another one, potentially not
I've seen people eating this, and it looks terrifying.
Yeah, it's not good. So sanakji is essentially raw octopus, but they literally kill it right before you eat it. So it's still moving around, and they put soy sauce on it.
Looks disturbing.
And so salt, like whenever fresh meat is freshly butchered, if you put salt on it, it fires all the electrons, or not electrons, all the, I can't remember what they're called, but it fires all of the stuff in the muscle fibers and it'll move. And so they do that. And I do not understand this at all. Like, this is not, there is no.
Why can't it just be dead?
Yeah, there's nothing about this that I don't want any of it. But they still wiggle around, and you're supposed to just like pop it and eat it, because I don't think they're big ones. I think they're little ones. And the suction cups are still like active because they're in like soy sauce, and they can grab your throat. And so many people have died because they try to eat it and it grabs onto their throat.
I've seen people eating it.
It
does look disturbing because it looks like, you're a monster eating a live animal.
Yeah, there's nothing I haven't.
Now, this one happens in Florida all the time.
Yeah, so shellfish, another very, very common one. So that's why, okay.
Go eat oysters.
What's the rule? Is you only get shellfish in months that end in Y?
I have no idea.
There is a rule for that, because I think it's the same thing with amoeba. During the summer,
I think the rule is don't get it at Hooters.
I mean, that can also be part of the rule, or gas stations, or any random place that.
If you're at a gas station that has raw oysters, definitely don't get that.
Pass on them. No, but they essentially so when red tide and amoebas and stuff are heavily prominent, so usually summer because there's heat. These things are like filter feeders, and so they pick up a lot of the toxins. So you can get very, very sick from shellfish. Unpasteurized cheese, and this also, I guess, goes to raw milk as well. So a lot of dairy can harbor stuff.
I put this as a discovery recently that dairy is one of the most dangerous foods on Earth.
No,
I think it's the most, because it's the most consumed.
Yeah, no,
so it has killed more people than any other food on the planet.
Yeah, the statistical size of it, because a lot of people drink milk. But I mean, there's also that hilarious story of there was some guy who was like, "We don't need the government telling us we can't drink milk raw," and so he got this whole bill passed where you could drink raw milk. Drank raw milk and was immediately sick. Like got sick from that press shot.
Nice.
Bagels. Bagels are because of trying to cut bagels.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the most common knife injuries in the kitchen. 2,000 Americans were sent to the ER in 2011 with bagel-related injuries. Only 6 people died from the live octopus, but once again, this is a sample size thing. So a lot more people are eating bagels than octopus.
Don't use a super sharp knife.
That's not the problem.
Bagel.
They use too dull a knife. And it slips because it's round.
You just need a serrated knife. Don't use a.
Yeah, no, and just take your time with it. It's no rush. But yeah, that and avocados cause a lot of cut injuries to the ER, because I don't know, it's circular. I think that's pretty much it. It's a circle and it's hard to cut it. Green potatoes. So first of all, they call this unripened potatoes. I thought it was the other way around. I thought they were exposed to sunlight and then turned green. Like they started to almost transfer all that starch into trying to build
eat it somewhere right in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know. But it does have small quantities of a toxic substance that can cause illness if you eat a lot of green potatoes. So a lot of these are it's funny because this list, a lot of them are be careful with your knife. Don't eat the cherry pits. Don't ever touch fugu ever. You might die immediately and have to be on a ventilator. Green potatoes, if you eat 40 pounds of them, you might get a tummy ache.
Yeah, there's one of these. One of these is not like the other.
No, this one's pretty bad too. The ackee is a popular Jamaican fruit that's not allowed to enter the U.S. at all because it's highly dangerous.
Now
when the fruit turns red, it's ripe. But when it's yellow, it's teeming with toxic levels of hypoglycin A, which when consumed could result in vomiting, hypoglycemia, or even death. And the black seeds are always poisonous. So you have one color that's okay. Which, first of all, another one of those things is who was doing the color trials on this thing? Who's oh, he ate the black one. Don't eat the black ones.
He ate the seeds. Don't eat the seeds.
Yeah. there's a lot of these thoughts went back to my original question, and I don't think there's an answer for it. We've been eating these foods for a long time. Okay. Green almonds or cashews are no. Bitter almonds in their most raw form are full of cyanide. They need to go through a full heat treatment to remove toxins. Thankfully, that means the bag of almonds or can of cashews you buy at the store is safe, but don't worry, you'd have to eat 1,150 kernels to get poisoned. So another one that's very chill. And then this one's also pretty chill. Raw kidney beans.
That chili.
You may love to include kidney beans in
It ain't
stews and
just gonna
chilies,
get you on the back
but
end.
you should never eat them raw. Raw kidney beans contain a toxic agent. Oh, good Lord. Known as phytohemagglutinin.
Can I try?
Yeah. You see it?
Phytohemagglutinin.
Perfect. As many as a handful of beans could bring on symptoms like vomiting and headache. So this one is this is a lot more dangerous than like the almonds and the cherries, because like a handful, like if you just eat a little bit of beans that are raw, you're going to get vomiting and headaches. But then you cook them, you're
think
good.
I've eaten raw kidney beans before.
Did you vomit or have a headache?
I didn't. Well, I always have a headache, so maybe.
Maybe that's what started the whole thing.
Dang it. This is the secret to my migraines. I got to stop eating
the raw beans.
My breakfast of raw kidney beans.
Seems like an easy thing to stop. I think you can do it.
So there's also what likes to eat random foods no matter what they are? Raccoons. Raccoons love to eat they're trash pandas. They'll eat anything. But did you know that there's actually a history of raccoons at the White House? I found this website and I actually...
You mean like an invasion like in Pawnee, Indiana?
No, not at all. I found this website that has some really interesting facts. It's whitehousehistory.org. And they have a lot of stuff from like just weird stuff about like presidents and things like that have happened in the past, things that have happened in the White House. So this one is about raccoons at the White House. So it'll be in the show notes, but here's basically a history of all raccoons that have been inside the White House.
I didn't know I needed this list, but I kind of do.
It's more interesting than it sounds. So at one point, this guy, Democratic National Committee man, Edward F. Goltrin, brought a raccoon to the White House to meet President Woodrow Wilson. I don't know why. He also brought him a raccoon hat.
That seems cruel.
It's so weird.
I'm messing with you.
So basically, he went to the White House with this raccoon in hand and this coon hat, and he found out that the president wasn't even there. So, well, actually, before that, he just tied the raccoon to a tree outside, went into the White House.
You can tell this is an older time because some dude just tied a raccoon to a tree outside. Is that something that's still an option? I'll go tie a raccoon out somewhere.
I don't think so.
Maybe just to see the reaction.
But he had caught this raccoon because there's like this hunting club that he was in that he had caught this raccoon, and it put up such a fight because they were coon hunting and put up such a fight that it lost one of its teeth. What he did is then took it to a dentist who put a gold tooth in the raccoon. So this raccoon had a gold tooth.
This raccoon sounds awesome.
And on its trip with this guy to meet the president, which he didn't even meet the president because the president was golfing. That's not even a big part of the story, but he never even met the president. But anyway,
I'm sure
on
he was
the
so
way to meet the
disappointed.
president, it had a fight with a bulldog on a train. and it won. Yes, it says... Ben, that's the name of the raccoon, Ben got into another tussle with a bulldog on a train near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, emerging from the scrap victorious.
What year was this?
So that was whenever Woodrow Wilson was president, because it doesn't say. But the most famous, as you look that up, the most famous White House raccoon ever was Rebecca.
1856 to 1924.
Good old Rebecca. It's good to know that our presidents have been golfing for that long.
Makes sense.
Oh, man. Good old Rebecca. She was given to Calvin Coolidge in 1926 by a supporter from Mississippi.
So right after this, basically.
Who suggested that the raccoon be served up for Thanksgiving dinner.
Wait.
Yes.
Is that a thing that people eat raccoons?
Apparently in Mississippi at the time. I don't think it's a thing in Mississippi anymore, maybe. Maybe for the older folks holding on to old traditions. But anyway, fortunately, the family fell in love with the raccoon and instead adopted Rebecca as a pet. There's so many stories in this article about Rebecca. Rebecca was loved by the press. She was loved by the family. She was a family pet. They took her on like Christmas vacations. the first lady took her to like 3 egg drops, which is like a very famous thing that they do on the White House lawn every year. There's pictures. Like, look, that's the first lady at the egg drop with the raccoon on a leash. Yeah, with Rebecca.
I do love that they gave her a normal person name, Rebecca.
Rebecca remained on a short leash, and she had developed a reputation for evading staffers and climbing trees to avoid capture. According to one account, she enjoyed playing hide and seek with personnel, exhausting them until she was ready to return to her home on top of a stump on the White House grounds. They like made like essentially like a doghouse on a stump outside in the backyard, basically at the White House.
That's awesome, but she just stuck around?
Awesome. Yeah, she would just... I'm going to go hide from the Secret Service for a little bit. Mr. Coolidge even has a quote, or he reminisces about Rebecca in one of his memoirs, where he talks about one of her favorite pastimes was playing in a partly filled bathtub with a bar of soap.
That is an adorable mental image.
Yeah, raccoons are actually kind of cute when they're not acting like they have rabies and want to bite your face.
I read a tweet the other day that was hilarious, and it said because of their like opposable thumbs, because raccoons are very like they use their hands a lot. Raccoons would be a perfect pet, but they have the devil's mischief, so they can't be trusted.
Devil's mischief.
And I was like, you're kind of right.
There's a whole quote in here or a whole part of the story that's great. She was loved by the press. Everyone knew who she was, and like apparently like a policeman nearby the White House that knew the president went on a trip, found a male raccoon. He's like, man, Rebecca needs a boyfriend. And so he brought this other raccoon back, and he had named him, what was his name? Horace.
Horace and Rebecca.
But the president didn't like it, so he named it to Reuben. He renamed him Reuben, but he escaped from his cage frequently, and he scaled trees all the time, and he would occasionally climb the White House fence, leap onto Pennsylvania Avenue, halting traffic for up to 30 minutes. Eventually, he just ran off and didn't come back. Him and Rebecca didn't get along very well. This is a great article about this raccoon. And apparently later on when Rebecca was gone, her like house or whatever they had built for her was still there, and a possum took up residence. So a later president had a pet possum because of Rebecca's house. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing actually.
So this is a great website though. What was it again? I think it was whitehousehistory.org. Yeah. There's some really interesting articles
little weird tidbits.
That's what I want. That's the kind of stuff I want to know about my president.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's cool to hear, like, because that sounds wild. And I mean, it makes sense that the press loved it because, like, there's a raccoon in there. And I mean, this was what? Right after the Great Depression. So they're like, we need something slightly uplifting, please. And then there's a raccoon just up to general hijinks.
Sounds like today.
Yeah. So this is normally the part of the show where I have a band for the week. And for the first time in like 2 years, maybe, it's been a long time. For the first time in a long time, I do not have an artist. Because of everything that was going on, we took a break putting out content. I have taken a longer break on Creators Cove, so I have not done any interviews with anybody. But I'm getting back on it next week. I'm hoping we'll have more music for you guys to discover as well coming soon. But we basically just wanted to give time to the voices that needed to be heard, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure.
And so I do not have a band this week. If you want to hear a great song in spirit of what I would normally have playing right now, go ahead and listen to A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke. You're going to love it. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you guys will like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, join the Podcast Discovery Club. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to share discoveries with each other and have conversations about random stuff we discover throughout the week. We have a great time in there. It's really fun. A lot of the other shows that we're in the network with are on there as well, and you'll learn about other awesome shows. But yeah, basically, thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
Yeah. Until next time. Bye, guys. Rip it.